Hey there, SMITE fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores.
Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the SMITE Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible SMITE experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Hello, SMITE fans, and welcome to day number 3, week 4 of the SPL. My name is Jim Tucker, with me Aggro, and bringing you the SPL is powered by Alienware. You can get all of your gaming gear with Alienware, the Aurora Ryzen 10 Edition desktops, as well as the 25-inch 240Hz monitors, all available for you too at smitegame.com/Alienware. Make sure to use code SMITEAW to get your exclusive discount onto that one. And Aggro, we've got two pretty big important sets for us out here today. First one on the board is going to be the Scarabs and the Valkyries coming out to you. And I think this is going to be a really big one for the Valkyries.
The biggest game of the year for the Valkyries. Look, we've been understanding of their situation all year long. They're all playing from ping. We all get it. You know, it's a team with a rookie in the jungle, all that kind of stuff. I understand all that. This is their biggest game of the year. And it is not close compared to anything else that they've done so far, because they're going up against a Scarabs team that has just gone through a lot of turmoil, that has a sub playing today. You got to win this, because otherwise I don't know how you restore the mental afterwards. And it would also set the record for the longest losing streak in SPL history, so they want to avoid that.
Yeah, this is definitely a must-win set for these Valkyries. We also have the Oni Warriors and the Tartarus Titans playing later on today. You can see some of the other matches that we did have onto there. And as far as the standings go, Valhalla Valkyries still sitting there down at that 0-5. This is their chance to finally put that win column onto the board and get out of that 8th place seed for themselves. I mean, I think this is a match that we're going to be having to talk a lot about for them, and this is going to be a very big mental game for them.
Has to be. I mean, like I said, you just cannot afford to lose this game, even with understanding all of the difference that playing from Europe takes and all that kind of stuff. Let's be real. They're playing against a team with all these changes and the sub. They got to win. They just have to. I don't know what else to say at this point. I mean, the Valkyries, we can make excuses for them all we want, but this is a must-win.
And not just that, I mean, they're going to be playing against not just a team with the sub, but some players also maybe swapping around some positions from what we've been hearing onto it as well. But I think one of the players we're going to have to be looking into is Ducky. He seems to be a pillar for this Valkyries team in that solo lane play. We've been seeing a lot of variety coming out of him as far as his picks go. We've also been seeing the development of these more Guardian-esque solo laners come out there, and I really haven't seen Ducky kind of push towards those Guardians yet. He's been sticking to more of the traditional warriors when it comes to those roles.
Yeah, it's a good point. We've seen a lot more mages in the solo lane, the Jean Kui for Nika and Finoke as of late, but of course the Cerberus, the Sobek, all of these Guardians that are really starting to show up over here in solo. But you're right, the Ducky has stuck more towards things like the Wukong, like the Osiris. Those are two of their top picks so far in this phase. I wonder if he feels like those aren't the picks for how his team wants to play. A lot of times Ducky gets on weak side, so to speak, where he is not going to get a lot of help from the team. They're going to play more around mid and around duo. Maybe with that in mind, they're trying to let him secure his own blues a little bit more. Or maybe they're trying to snowball onto these Guardians that Johnny will come over a little bit more often and end up pressuring his lane, and they feel like he might be able to do more with the Warriors in comparison.
And it feels that's where Johnny has put a lot of his focus has been over into that solo lane. Try and get Ducky ahead and try and get these Warriors starting to snowball forward for him. But we'll have to see exactly where their picks and bans lie with it today. We've seen a lot of priority in banning out Johnny and Zero specifically. We haven't really seen any Ducky-targeted bans, so he seems to kind of just have free reign of that solo lane for the most part when it comes to these picks and bans.
And a lot of times they pick him pretty early in these drafts. I mean, I'm looking at their top threes here in Phase 2. Their top gods they've picked in the top 3 picks of Wukong, 3 picks of Osiris. Nothing else is at 3 quite yet. A lot of 2s and 1s in that zone. So you know that even though Ducky does get priority a lot of the time, it's not always what you want in the solo lane. Sometimes you want to save your pick to see what the other team is going for.
Well, we do have Ducky standing by with us for an interview for the Valhalla Valkyries. Ducky, you got a big set coming up today. What is it like preparing for a team with the sub coming up against the Scarabs?
I mean, you can't really prepare. I don't know what Slaney plays, man. I don't know if he plays the game anymore. So it's hard to guess.
Well, one thing that you do know onto it at least is that you will still be facing off against Solo Troll, most likely into that solo lane up against you, though there are some roster shakeups. When it comes to facing off against Solo Troll, how do you kind of prepare for him? Do you kind of form your drafts around him?
I mean, am I playing against Solo Troll in solo today? I don't know.
As far as I'm aware, we've been told you're playing against Solo Troll onto it.
Okay.
We do have Slaney coming in onto it, but kind of going up against Solo Troll. What's it like facing off against him specifically in that solo lane matchup?
I feel like it's very passive. He likes to play aggressive, but I typically don't. That's why I pick Wukong a lot and just farm. So I'll probably be running away most of the time, and he'll be trying to go ham.
Well, hopefully we can see if that can work out for you. Thank you so much for your time, Ducky. Good luck onto your games. So, Aggro, kind of going on to that one, like you said, a little bit more passive out of Ducky despite playing these a little bit more hard-hitting warriors into that one. How do you think that will kind of shake things up for him as they move forward?
Yeah, I think that is an interesting sort of dichotomy now for Ducky because, like you said, if you're playing against Solo or Troll, then he's going to be playing more aggressive stuff. He's going to be running at you. Ducky's going to be playing more passively. If they decide to switch Slaney over to solo, which is not the plan for Game 1 as I understand it, but maybe they decide to do that in Game 2 or Game 3 or something like that, then it's a totally different play style that he's going to be playing up against in that lane. So I think Ducky is not in the easiest position. And even though we say, it's heavily Valkyries favored, as it should be, it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy one necessarily for Ducky in particular.
And I think an important thing that he said is you can't really prepare for a sub. You don't really know how to prepare for you. You have Slaney stepping in. You don't know what he's playing. Then you also have the Hunter coming in, Stewart, replacing Zapman onto it. So you spend all this time preparing for how am I going to face off against Zapman? What are we going to do against him? But Now they've got Stewart in that position for it, and obviously we still have inbound on this team as well. May not be playing into that same position from what we were told. Maybe he's moving over to take that first round into the jungle. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen inbound play a game of jungle, so I have no idea where those picks and bans are going to start lying for him.
Yeah, I don't know. So that is the plan for game 1. It's Slaney in support, inbound in jungle. And inbound's been playing Serket support and looking pretty good on it. Maybe that's the direction he's going to go. I don't know. If I'm the Valkyries, I guess that's my best assumption on what would happen for inbound in the jungle, but it's certainly going to change things up. Putting Slaney in that duo lane, you've already got a rookie over there in Stewart. I'm a little surprised this is the direction the Scarabs decided to go. I think if I were the Scarabs, I would have put Solar Troll in the jungle because he spent last year in the SOC playing a ton of jungle and looking very good doing it, then letting Slaney solo because that's what he played last time around. But Slaney's main role is support, is my understanding, so maybe that's why they decided to go in this direction.
Maybe try and put their best foot forward for the sub onto that one. Maybe try and get him in his most comfortable, even if it kind of puts the team at a little bit of a hindrance for it. Again, we'll kind of have to see how they shift that one around. Maybe you're right on those assassins, maybe the Serket, maybe we see a Naja or Fenrir come out of there as well. Those are always possibilities when it comes to inbound. I mean, the world is his arsenal at this point. Coming into support, you play all kinds of different picks, you play all kinds of different gods in that role for it.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to see exactly what the Scarabs are going to go for because now, so often, we feel like this team is trying to shore up that duo lane, get inbound in particular, something that he really wants, and now it's not him in the duo lane for this game, at least for game 1. It's him in the jungle. I mean, if you're the Valkyries, I agree with what Ducky was saying. You really cannot prepare for a team that's in this sort of position. You look at what the Scarabs have top 3 as of late. Sol, Fenrir, Raijin, Hercules, Gilgamesh are their only ones with multiple picks in the top 3. Things like Sol, Raijin are obviously going to still be valuable in that top 3, but maybe Fenrir is something that inbound can take into the jungle. Still has that sort of support mentality for him.
Well, and the one thing that we saw last week against the Valkyries was a more focused ban against the jungler specifically. Try and keep Johnny in the most uncomfortable that you can get him. You can't throw too many bans away over towards this guy, but we've been consistently seeing Loki banned away. Most recently, the Apollo has also made its way into the picks and bans as a consistent ban against Johnny. Do we see that similar mindset of keep Johnny down, and maybe that's our best chance?
Yeah, I think so, because especially with a guy who's not your typical jungler stepping in to jungle for you, I think making sure that Johnny doesn't just get a comfort pick, invade you consistently, and really start to snowball the game that way, that's probably the direction I would go if I were the Scarabs.
Well, picks and bans for game 1 started up here. Valkyries do have the election for first pick, and they're going to go ahead and start off by taking the Giannis off the board, get that one out of Baronic's hands. And we've been seeing, now at the start of Season 8, it was Giannis all day. Every team was trying to pick up Giannis as often as they could, and then he just kind of went radio silent for a while, but now we're seeing this resurgence of this mage. What brought Giannis just back out from the grave, basically?
Sometimes this happens, you get a character that's really good, and everyone agrees it's really good, and then it starts, get some nerfs, items get nerfed. That's a big thing for Giannis, is that his items got nerfed pretty heavily, and then people stop playing him. He must be bad. And then one guy who's pretty good at him will pull him out and still do the same things that made you ban him in the first place. And it just kind of starts this domino effect of, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. The reality for Giannis in particular is that he just does things that no other mage or character can do for your composition. So it's not like nerfing his damage will always take him out. If it's not his damage that makes him good, and it's his mobility and his options to move around the map, then the damage numbers won't really change his prioritization. And that might be what's happening now.
Yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, no other god in the game who can walk through a wall. No other god in the game who can walk your entire team through a wall, travel them halfway across the map. So that mobility of Giannis is very key, and making sure that they are going to be taking that one down. We also do see some priority against Johnny here. We do see Osiris, which has been very prominent into the jungle. A lot of players are starting to bring him back into the jungle more than the solo lane, but also that Loki ban, making sure we keep Johnny off of what we would imagine is probably his most powerful god into jungle, because it doesn't feel like any team wants to let him get this god.
No, and he hasn't been able to see it since like the first few weeks of Phase 1. It's been that good for him. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see that. I like the Scarabs bans and the direction that they've gone. Artemis first pick for the Valkyries, giving Emilito something aggressive that he can end up trying to snowball this duo lane. I'm looking at this Valkyries duo lane, man. You're up against Stewart and Slaney, who have one set of SPL experience in this season between them. You guys have years and years of SPL experience. Ping should not make the difference here. It should be experience in my mind. I'm looking for the Valkyries duo lane to be the driving force for this team, and I love that they've prioritized their picks top 2. Give them things that they're comfortable with. Give them things that can really make them make those plays, and just lean on that experience over there in duo.
Yeah, I think they're working on their core 3 there as well. They pick up the Raijin for their mid laner to make sure they can get a strong pick onto that one. Morgan Le Fay and Gilgamesh picked up on the opposite side, though, over for the Scarabs. A little bit of flexibility with the Gilgamesh, not fully locked into the jungle. We have seen him go into the solo lane, and Morgan Le Fay kind of in the hot seat right now. She finally got released for SPL play, and it seems that every team kind of wants a piece of this mage.
And for good reason. I think she is pretty good, but I don't think that she's unbeatable come late game. I don't think that she's, the best god in the game by a mile. I don't think that she's the best mage in the game by a mile. I just think she's good, and we're still in the period of time where teams are not great at playing around her or against her, potentially, and that will change things up. That will give you a slight edge whenever it comes to these skirmishes. So I don't have any problem with the Scarabs still top picking her. I don't think that she'll stay top pick forever, but I think she's pretty good.
Yeah, maybe once we get some more sets onto it, kind of see what matchups go into this Morgan Le Fay, maybe we won't see that kind of top 2 pick, because it seems it's always in those top 3 spots amongst the teams where they want to pick up this god. They're really heavily prioritizing getting her early, but we haven't really seen much yet as far as built against her. They're kind of just letting her exist and figuring out how you kind of deal with this god onto it. Fafnir now locked in on the side of the Scarabs, get something aggressive into that support role, make sure and get Slaney something comfortable, something he can play very front forward on.
Yeah, I mean, Fafnir is one of those gods that you get a couple extra inches on your leash with. That's a survivable god. He's got the self-heal, the long jump, a point and click stun. It feels like if you're accurate enough with that hammer, which you would hope they could be at this level, but Slaney stepping in, is he going to be SPL level with the mechanics? We're not really sure quite yet. And you've got that transformation to really end up buying you an extra time. I think it's an interesting pick in terms of the survivability, and I like that aspect of it. But realistically, Fafnir is high execution and is hard to execute on, and so I'm a little bit nervous for him on that front.
One thing we are seeing here, and I kind of got a note onto this one, Rom picked up for the Solar Scarabs.
Yep.
100% win rate on this god. 5 games he's been picked up so far. Hasn't lost one yet. So the Solar Scarabs go into something tried and true that's been working out for many teams so far. I think most notably Zapman and Barracuda, the two who are really bringing this god to the forefront. We'll have to see how Stewart can perform on it. Typically, Stewart's the player I kind of see on more of the ability-based hunters, more like Ho Yi. We've also been seeing him on the Uller as well. So curious how he's going to perform on the ROM, especially going up against Terra and Artemis into the dual lane. I mean, that's a dangerous combo to really be thrown against.
And look, you're right to think of the Uller, of course. The Stuhler is what we all know him for. But this ROM pick is an interesting one for me because Artemis is typically a pretty bad matchup for you. So I'm interested to see how he's going to be able to survive that duo lane. As I got to say here, J-Mac, I'm surprised to see Zhang Kui come through. I mean, this is not that super aggressive solo laner that I thought the Scarabs might go for. I had a pretty good feeling this Gilgamesh was going jungle for inbound. You feel like he's going to be able to make that happen in the jungle as a sort of facilitator role. That makes some sense to me. Getting more team fight presence with this Zhang Kui for sure, but not having that lane dominance. And I'm looking across the way for the Scarabs. I don't see a lane they're going to dominate really at all in this match. They have not drafted a whole lot of lane pressure. And as Mifflin, I'm sure, will tell you, when you're a jungler and you don't have a winning lane to lean on, it becomes harder to find your windows. It's not impossible. You can do it. But a lot of times, that's where the experience of being a jungler comes in. To know, hey, my lanes are losing. Here's how I can make an impact anyways. Inbound won't have that.
Yeah, it's not going to really be a great luxury for him, especially this is his, as far as I'm aware, first official competitive jungle match, and having something like that Zhang Kui in the solo. I mean, we saw Final K perform on it fine yesterday, but the priority wasn't towards the solo lane. It wasn't, we need to get Final K ahead. They had advantage in other lanes for it. The Zhang Kui, as much as you and I have talked about Zhang Kui so much, we've seen it so many times, we both love the pick, we're both fans of it, but I just don't know how I feel about it with this composition for the Scarabs. Like you said, there's not a winning matchup anywhere for them. Morgan Le Fay, Yes, she has a lot of damage, but it comes on a little bit later into the game. And when you're going up against a Fenrir with no mobility, this is going to be a rough life for this mid laner. It's going to be a rough life for the solo laner as well.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think that the Scarabs, their composition is screaming to me, if we just get to late game and we can group as 5, we're probably going to be fine. But they've got a Terra on the other side, they've got a Raijin, they've got Artemis. I love all those gods in the team fighting phase. And the Valkyries have been a fairly slow to start team, so I'm not blaming the Scarabs for coming to the conclusion that we don't have to draft winning lanes. We can draft these lower pressure lanes. We're likely not going to get punished for it, and then we'll see what we can do come the team fighting stage. I want to see the Valkyries up the pressure a little bit, because even though their late game's good, I think their early game is better than what the Scarabs have.
Well, it's a big step for the Valkyries. We're going to have to see if they can bring themselves their first victory in a while. Here, we're going to take it over to the casters. Gore, Mifflin, take it away.
That's right, first victory in a while since week 2 of phase 1. This team has not been able to find a win. In fact, actually, maybe scrolling it back, they might have beat the Scarabs. No, it was the Warriors. I can't remember either way. I have it written down somewhere. It's Goremizer, it's Mifflin, and they're on a 13-set loss streak here for the Valkyries, trying to turn that around. And Mifflin, man, I don't know where to start. Look, Johnny's playing Fenrir. That's actually kind of interesting, because I really like seeing Johnny play various picks in the jungle. But there's so much on the other side to talk about that I don't know where to go, so it's all you.
So I guess we're going to talk about Inbound in the jungle. That seems to be the standout for me. I mean, we got to talk about this Solar Scarabs roster as a whole, but I think Inbound in the jungle should be the talking point, not just because of my jungle bias, but because, truthfully, any team is only as good as their jungler. He's the only player on the map that can influence every single lane, and this is Inbound's first time performing inside of this role. Worth noting, it's not as if he's got a wild shift in style here. It's not like Yarkor going from ADC to solo where it's just so tonally different. Support likely has some of the most carryover, transitive skill, if you would, between jungle. So Inbound has the potential to influence the map well, but as Aggro was alluding to on the desk, when you don't have pressure in any singular lane, that means that you don't have a lane that you can go to soak up some farm because they have a lead, or easily find these aggressive ganks. Instead, it's about finding your windows, getting this farm, controlling the neutral objectives and the neutral farm as well. And, well, Inbound doesn't have that experience to lean on, so I'm very excited to see how he plays this one out.
Well, you're talking about not necessarily having pressure, a lot of pressure coming out from Stuart and Slaney of all places on the map. It's not in mid, it's not in soul, it's not the players you'd expect. It's the, well, I guess the quote-unquote the newbie, the coach that are subbing in, but can they survive Johnny, who's looking to come through? He's going to be able to find the stun immediately for the brutalize, but a good stun from Slaney, not enough to save their lives. Imolito going to be able to pick up first blood, but now Inbound is lurking in the jungle. Looks like he's going to go for the Harpy. Slaney actually under pressure now. Imolito looking for a second one, finds himself the double.
How did that happen?
So much for the pressure.
Okay, Slaney, your ADC's dead. You should probably walk away. Not much a Fafnir without Hammer can do in a 1 versus 2, but instead sticks around. Maybe got baited by Bobby, who was hovering inside the jungle. Maybe a miscommunication, thought that his jungler was going to show up, but that was simply not the case. And the Valhalla Valkyries find 2 swift ones on the board, and already 1,000 gold in the lead 2 minutes in. That is sizable. You're talking about it. Solar Scarabs somehow finding pressure with their newbies, if you would. Yeah, well, maybe lane pressure, or wave pressure rather, is all that they have. Rom does have great clear, but the fight clearly going the way of the Valkyries.
Oh, now Emilito's all on his own. Rapper has just decided to go for the red buff over there with Johnny. Will that cost Emilito his life? Doesn't seem like it, with no mana there for the Artemis. Means that there's not much pressure coming out from just there. Johnny hanging out in the jungle, might not be able to find a kill here, but after that red buff invade, well, where else to go other than the purple buff? Fun things happening on the left-hand side. I think the Valkyries are recognizing that they're going to have a pretty massive advantage over there and utilizing that. Here's the question I want to pose to you. Junkwe's on a 2-win streak. Technically, he's won the last 2 games he's played.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to persist through this one?
Do I think the Solar Scarabs are going to win? Is that what you're asking me?
No, just the Junkwe.
They've got a chance, and there goes that chance.
Blink.
That was actually a really good blink. The carpet, or not the carpet, the tag was already applied by Zhonghui, but because it has delayed damage, Ducky was allowed to use that blink a little bit later on. That's an interesting interaction. It's one of the few abilities in the game that has damage come through after it hits you instead of right as it does, so Ducky, aware of that, able to escape.
Well, Raffer, using his blink to go forward, goes for the root onto Stuart, gets the walls, gets the stun. Emilito is nowhere to be found as of right now.
Oh, Tusky!
But the slows are going to be great. Tusky comes through, gets some damage, It's not enough to kill off Stuart, but Slaney is now the one who's kind of having to take the brunt of this damage. They're trying to figure out how to stay alive, stay in the lane. I don't know that you can walk forward. Emilito, 5, Raffers should theoretically be ticking over soon enough. And the other 2 are 3.
Keep your eye on inbound. I think he's going to rotate over to this lane just about right now. The Valhalla Valkyries do have pressure here, but this is disrespectful pressure. 50% HP on Emilito. Only has enough mana really for about 1, maybe 2 abilities. If inbound could just get in here while they're still playing this far up, that should be some pretty easy kills for the Gilgamesh.
Well, he's in the neighborhood. We'll have to see what pathing he takes to go forward with this one. Walks right through where the Scorpion will be in a few seconds. It seems like it might be too
Raph
late.
could die too.
I mean, yeah, Emilito's all the way out there. Raffer has full health, half mana. It seems like Bobby's going to go ahead and call quits on the duo lane for this one. Stuart moves forward. He's at half health, maybe more dangerous than what you'd expect with the beads timer being at still 100 seconds. And so the pressure goes elsewhere. Gilgamesh not necessarily making a huge impact just yet. The only blink we've seen was blinked away afterward by Ducky. And so ultimately it's going to be Johnny once again who's getting aggressive here. And I don't know, this one feels a little worse for Weremifflin.
A good rotation from Bobby just to keep his presence known on this left-hand side, trying to defend this purple buff. But he left. He just left. Why is he... Bobby, where are you going, bud? You're getting invaded.
Oh.
He got invaded.
Hey, here's a purple buff, courtesy of Johnny going towards the Valkyries. Doesn't even look like they care enough to pick it up on that side. They're going to go for the Greater Scorpion. And this is, look, if you're a Valkyries fan, you've been wanting to see this kind of
gameplay
for them.
It's our time.
A while. I mean, again, the last time they won a full set, they've won some individual games. I think total they have 5 game wins. 2 of those was a 2-0 against the Warriors in Week 2 of Phase 1. That is their only set win. Or the last set win, I should say, that they've been able to scoop up. 3 other individual games they've been able to pick up since then. And so this is a big one for them.
It is, and Aggro said it earlier on this week in the waiting room, if the Valkyries aren't able to dig in their heels, dig deep, and find a dub inside of this set, direct quote here, what's the point? You know, this is a severely hobbled Solar Scarabs draft. They're using their coach in that support role, their mainline support now in the jungle. Stuart is new to this team. SOT coming off of a, like a 1-week hiatus. You got to win now.
Well, inbound's now the one caught out. That was the Ragnarok used to grab him, but it's the winds of Shemesh that keep things locked down.
Ducky
Maybe turn it
might win
around
this.
a little bit. Ducky gets stunned out and locked down. Him and Johnny too far away. We've got a rotation from Xeros, but they're not going to be able to get anything out of there, even though it doesn't necessarily turn things into a kill for the Scarabs. They do a great job of thwarting that kill.
And that is a trapping of the jungle in that it feels very easy to gank Soul Lane because it's so close to the core of your farm, which is why we see Inbound so focused on it.
They might even get Johnny here. Inbound's getting aggressive. He has no mana. One more hit. That's all you need. Zhonghui Ghost is going to be able to get it. That range is all you need. SOT gets first blood for the Scarabs here by killing off Johnny.
Hey, maybe Zhonghui could just stay inside the Soul Lane. SOT going for a slightly greedy build with the Warlock staff, getting some nice stacks online already, and, well, hasn't had too much pressure come his way from Johnny. Has a good matchup into the Fenrir. That most consistent bit of damage is going to be the Brutalize, and, well, you're not really allowed to Brutalize Zhonghui. Has that stun right around his body.
I mean, it's perfectly
nice
controllable, I guess is the best way. And Slaney, look, those were good jukes. I'm going to give him some credit there, being able to dodge out Emilito. Unfortunately, it does seem like it's going to come at the cost of your purple buff again, which has been a consistency for the Valkyries here. I think that red buff, I'm not sure how many times Baronic has it this time around, so they've been able to stabilize at least a little bit on this left side jungle, but so much pressure has gone onto it. I think the last time we saw this many purple buffs stolen, it was against Vote of all players.
Poor guy.
I think it was like 8 in a row, something ridiculous. And we'll see if the Valkyries can keep that amount of pressure up. I think more pressure, speaking of which, comes to the solo lane. I mean, you just highlighted it, solo troll, what he's able to do specifically against Fenrir, but also onto Ducky, right? I mean, he's not necessarily been having the performance he wants, but he has been the most consistent, I would argue, outside of maybe Xeros on this team. And so this is a big game for him.
It is, and well, Ducky already having a slight level deficit inside the lane means that he's kind of missed his opportunity to shut down this Zhonghui, who is only getting harder and harder to kill as time goes on. So I think, if anything, the Solar Scarabs are going to start to shift their focus over here towards this Soul Lane. Ducky's been handled handily by SOT, so he doesn't really need too much more help over there, and instead, maybe take your eyes towards this immobile Hunter, maybe shift your attention towards Zeros and mid, who's been allowed to free cast for the most part.
Well, speaking of free cast, Johnny half health, but on to inbound here. Went deep to get that quest. Now the Brutalize comes through. Windsor Shemesh is only going to be able to do so much. Johnny doesn't get the jump, but it doesn't matter. Imolito rotated over to help clean up the kill and knocks Bobby down for his first death of the game so far. And that jungle, I mean, it's the question of impact. He's only one level behind right now, but where is this Gilgamesh really going to start showing up? Might need to be in mid lane here soon. Zero's looking to get aggressive alongside Raffer.
He is, but not too much is going to happen here. It should fizzle out. There's not a ton of damage potential, as Zero's just used all of his abilities to clear the wave. Instead, maybe we see the Valhalla Valkyries go for this red buff invade. Emolito already on the rotation in.
I mean, they're looking to fight and at least try and get this red buff, as you had highlighted. They're going to be able to secure that one, but can they get away with this one? Good stuns coming down from the Scarabs. The snipes are going to be good. It's Moronic who cleans up the kill on Imolito. Raffer looking to just barely walk away, uses the blink to close out some space. It looks like he should be safe here with Johnny and Zeros, but I say that, now Slaney getting aggressive inbound, lurking in the jungle. How much will they be able to do? The stun into the ult, they're going to be able to grab it. Bobby locked down. It should be a kill here. One more shot is all Zeros needs to clean that one up, and Ducky has rotated into the back line. Moronic forced to run under the tower. Slaney gets knocked up. Not enough damage in the world to kill off that tank as of right now. At least it feels like it. So they're going to back off here, but this could be a good rotation for the Gold Fury.
Both mid laners forced to use their beads defensively. SOT trying to rout him, and Zeros, no Thunderclap available, does get it back up in time to make his way over the wall, but Solar Scarabs have great defensive positioning. They are controlling the center of the map right now. Gold Fury's up, Stewart's clearing out the Oracles. This could be an opportunity for them to go ahead and try and strip it away. Slaney on this Fafnir with a Coerce is going to help out a lot with that burn, but instead, reset back to neutral, head on back to lanes.
That was, like, a really good, I guess, secondary collapse from the Scarabs, right? Like, the first one doesn't go the way they want. Bobby gets picked up and brutalized in the most natural way that you could see from a Fenrir, but realistically, the way they return that fight damage and try to collapse in, Zeros doesn't pick up the red buff that was dropped for him, so you're maybe winning a little bit there, and ultimately you have some interesting rotations. Still down in terms of kills by 2, but like you said, that was a pretty phenomenal rotation for him.
Yeah, I would say that the Valkyries likely stick around inside of that fight a little bit too long. Ducky goes into the tier 1 mid tower just to strip away the beats from Moronic, and that should have been the end of the engagement from the Valhalla Valkyries. But instead, Zero sticks around a little bit too long, gets turned on, is forced to use his beats as well, and then it's a slow rotation out that gives SOT plenty of time to work his way into this fight. Shows up legitimately 15 seconds after Ducky does, but because the Valkyries stuck around for so long, it didn't really matter, and it turned into a pretty decent fight for the Solar Scarabs.
The red buff came up and secured there for the Scarabs. Johnny hanging out around purple buff, inbound, going in on Emolito. Good two-man stun. Johnny looking for anything he can do, and he forces inbound to fall back. The snipes from Stewart, not enough damage. Emolito is just barely alive here, and Slaney is going to be able to get credit for the kill. Johnny forced to jump away. Raffer and Zeros rotating in, but can they get the kills? Inbound's incredibly low. One more hit is all it takes, and the Raigen's going to be able to go 2-0. Now Stewart getting aggressive onto Zeros, and the turnaround damage from Zeros is great, but it's not enough to get the kill. Zeros is so low. Raffer, as you highlight, picks up Stewart, and Zeros gets on out of here. Now Raffer forced to run away, but Mifflin's Terra, he should be able to get out of this one. In fact, Johnny's still in the jungle. Maybe going to be forced to fight off onto this, into the Solar Troll, finally retreating everybody on the Scarabs. So a couple of kills going the way of the Valkyries, despite having lost Imolito.
Yeah, Johnny communicates to his team, guys, SOT is here, let's not fight anymore. I don't want to deal with him. He's a level 14 Zhang Kui's full stacked Warlock staff. Let's go ahead and disengage as easily as we can, and that's exactly what the Valkyries do. Inbound tries to get aggressive on the defense of his own purple buff, but has spent so much time fighting this game that he's fallen pretty far behind and doesn't have the most aggressive build. Brawler's Beat Stick immediately into the Magi's Blessing. Sacrificed a ton of damage for his survivability, but 3-level deficit, your survivability's already taken a pretty massive hit.
Yeah, I mean, with no beads as well, that's pretty much the only fight he has against Johnny's ult, which has been, what, all 3 of his deaths at this point? So it makes sense that he's trying to get something to keep himself alive. But like you said, maybe taking a hit to the damage. Right now, looking to invade on the right side jungle. Not a whole lot up over here. Maybe can turn towards that Greater Scorpion with some help. or might just look to fall back and, again, get some of that much-needed farm. Speaking of
Jeez.
farm, right now,
Oh,
it's
God.
just farming the duo lane. Slaney is barely able to escape from that one. Stewart takes more than he bargained for in a 2v1 trade with the Artemis. So Emilito is starting to feel very confident.
Yeah, you don't see that too often where in the SPL, a Hunter is just like, all right, I'll take you both right now, Slaney and Stewart losing out on that engagement. It's only a 1-level deficit in the Hunter role. Emilito just getting the better end of that trade, and with doing that, creates enough space to head on over to this Gold Fury, and nobody from the Scarabs are privy to it.
I mean, this should be pretty free, as you said. Nobody, I think Inbound maybe catches it out, but look, I'm not jumping in on 4 of the Valkyries, not at this moment. So they're going to be able to walk away with a Fury on top of that. Now Johnny, as well as Raffer, looking for the setup, jumps in, stun on Veronic. There's going to be a nice kickback from Inbound. And that's going to get them safely disengaged here. But the Valkyries are out for blood right now.
Yeah, this is a revitalized Valkyries draft. They're like, oh, look, we can do it, and they are certainly doing it right now. But now that the Gold Fury has been removed from the map, that neutral objective on the duo side of the map, which is where the Valkyries have the majority of their lead, means that we get to see a point where they have to take the fight over towards the other side of the map if they want to push it further. And who's over there? SOT with a 2-level lead over Ducky on a great team-fighting presence God inside of Zhang Kui, who's elected to go for a high damage build already. Stone of Binding picked up, has the helmet, the Warlock staff. This guy is massive right now. So I think just the threat of SOT existing on the right-hand side of the map should be enough to keep the Valkyries at bay unless they find a pick. If they do, then the Pyromancer's on the menu.
Well, speaking of finding a pick, they're looking for it. They are not hiding the fact that they want to fight the Scarabs any chance they get the opportunity to jump in. Mid-camps on the right-hand side of the lane, going towards the Valkyries, but it's Ducky and Johnny moving forward into the jungle right around the blue buff for the Scarabs. Not going to be able to find any stuns, no setups. In fact, if anything, it's looking like it might turn around here. Zeros, the collapse coming in from him and Raffer. You've got 4 members of the Valkyries over here. You got to get something. It looks like they're going to turn maybe some of that attention to the Pyromancer. But Mifflin, it's a whole lot of nothing.
Wait, look, I was looking at Slaney's build. I'm sorry, Gore. Normally, when you go for damage in that second slot on Fafnir, it's Spear of Desolation, a little bit of Penetration, a little bit of CDR. Instead, goes for the Spear of the Magus. I mean, Lifesteal Pen to be sure, but he's already a newer player here at the SPL level, playing a high execution God, and now squishier than he could have been. That's a pretty big turning point, I'd say, inside of the build that is now going to reflect elsewhere. It looks like it could be a Pridwin pickup next as well. 2-level deficit up against iRaffer. I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Slaney should legitimately be doing more damage than a Spear of Desolation build would have allowed for him, but that lifesteal really not going to do a ton insofar as his survivability.
About 1.5 levels down from where Raffer is. He just ticked over to 12. Raffer's been sitting comfortably at 13 for a little while. 2 levels down there in the jungle. I have to say, look, Solar Troll benched for 2 weeks, served it in 4 days. Wow. Pretty impressive. That's some time travel right there. Somebody call Kronos. Either way,
behavior.
He has a level lead over Ducky, you had highlighted earlier, but also 2 levels there for Veronic, maybe 1.5 levels depending on how close Zeros is to 16. But these two, at least in the mid and solo, seem to be the kind of pillars right now that the Scarabs are holding on to.
Yeah, Veronic has to step up for his team here, dealing that. He's the main core of damage. I mean, SOT is going to do a lot, is likely going to find himself on the top of the damage charts for his team by the end of this game, but it's really up to Veronic to find that impactful damage, to get that artillery from a range and finish off these kills, because they're the veterans now here for this squad. As crazy it is to say, it's Veronic's first season, but he's one of the most seasoned players on this team outside of Inbound and SOT.
That is a wild thought, though, right? I mean, Stewart, hey, look, I got to give him some credit. Subbed in for the SPL last year as well.
Has a lot of SEC talent behind him, too.
And, yeah, has played quite a lot of competitive. Of course, right now, I mean, look, you're looking down the barrel at a 2-times world champ back-to-back duo lane, not just one player, as if it had been maybe, well, I guess Zap would have been in his spot, so that's not necessarily the same way. Either way, something that is going to be one of those moments where you just turn names off. You're looking at a god. It's just Artemis over there. It's not Emilito that you have to worry about. Inbound, maybe a little worried here. Johnny getting aggressive. Inbound tanky enough, though, with that pickup that he has in his items that Johnny didn't do much damage to him anymore.
Yeah, Johnny didn't really have the opportunity to return damage. Inbound hits the drop kick and then realizes had he stuck around in that engagement, would have likely lost the fight up against Seething Hal, up against this equally tanky build on this Fenrir, meaning that there's really not much Inbound could have done, so he uses the heroic leap to go ahead and escape out of that one. Still a pretty large deficit inside of the jungle, but this is such a strange match of Smite where some players on the Valkyries have leads, other players on the Scarabs have equally large leads, if not larger, but across the top of the screen it is net positive for the Order side, about 1,000 gold in their favor, and now that Gold Fury, or rather Oni Fury, is finally starting to respawn, I think that's where the Valkyries are going to try and continue their pressure. They've been spinning their wheels since the Gold Fury had gone down for a good reason. Don't want to fight around SOT. So now that this neutral objective is spawning, I expect to see some sparks fly.
I have to give shout-outs to the Scarabs. Look at the wards on the map. I mean, I was thinking, oh yeah, you could go for Pyromancer. Nobody's been looking over there just yet. Maybe that's a place to force some sort of excursion for these teams, but it's absolutely covered in Scarabs wards. You look towards the Oni Fury, same thing is going on over here. Lots of coverage in the jungle for the Scarabs. And a 4-man grouping in mid coming from them. Soloer Trolls rotated into the lane. Raffer and pretty much every other Valkyrie are right here in the vicinity. And in fact, they might find themselves caught out. Ducky looking to get aggressive. Same thing with Johnny and Raffer, but they're not finding a whole lot.
No, Solar Scarabs are going to wait until the Valhalla Valkyries dig in their heels and generate enough threat to force the engagement. Emelito fake pulling the Oni Fury just to make the Scarabs step up. Slaney forced to act as a human ward here just to check in, and now Ducky has his opportunity.
Gonna get the 2-man knock-up stun from Johnny onto SOT, but that's gonna be the ult from the Zhang Kui, and it's starting to pour out damage. Raffer takes way too much than he bargained for. They're gonna burn him down, but Slaney goes down in response. Same for Inbound, same for SOT. The Valkyries collapse in on the Scarabs, make it a 3-for-1. They only lose their support, and now they can turn towards the Oni Fury.
If at any point a Kakon is allowed to land a 4-man route, that's a fight that the Kakulans team should be able to win, and that's exactly what happens this time around. Ducky, though, bites off a little bit more than he could chew. Baronic able to set up the kill for Stewart, but the Valkyries confirm the Oni Fury now on the retreat, and Baronic completely healthy, seeing if maybe he can find Emelito. No chance for a turnaround on this one. Valhalla Valkyries push their lead a little bit further here, Gore. Now 3,000 in their favor, and good gumption from the Solar Scarabs. Crazy that they were willing to stick around in this one. Ducky does go a little bit too far forward, but at the end of the day, creates enough space to get the neutral objective, and isn't that the job of the solo?
You know, you get the 2-for-3 trade, the Oni Fury. I mean, I guess you just highlighted it, like you're ahead now, but is that as worthwhile? Like, I feel like let's just face it, the Valkyries need better trades than that to make this should be an easy game for them in all regards. When you've got Inbound, like, look, a great player, but he's in the jungle. This is his first SPL level jungle game. You've got a sub in for your support, and you've technically got a sub in for your carry, because I think they have said outright that Stewart isn't necessarily the mainstay for them. It's going to make things difficult to say that the Valkyries are not necessarily winning these trades as heavily as they should.
But they are winning nonetheless, and in the SPL, a dub is a dub. Gore Miser, gotta give him credit where it's due, and I think maybe that team fight goes a little bit worse for them had SOT itemized a little bit more in towards survivability. Dude's squishy. I mean, he got evaporated on this Zhang Kui, and out of the soul lane, you want a little bit more frontline presence. He's the largest member of his team, was one of the first players, if not the first player, to take over to level 20, approaching true 6 slotted, and he is still not quite able to walk his way into the Valhalla Valkyries backline. We need to see SOT get a little bit more work done on this Zhang Kui.
Well, the Pyromancer dance isn't much of a dance. It just goes the way of the Valkyries this time around. The Scarabs are hanging around here. Johnny's farming up in mid. The Valkyries are actually pretty scattered, all things considered, for this fight. Raffer looks to get caught out. Finds a nice route, though, and is able to escape using that double dash. Scarabs seem to back off, and the advantage positioning goes to the Valkyries.
It does. Slaney, what are you doing, bud? Can't step up into the chainsaw maw that is Emelito, but maybe just fading him in. That's a huge turn.
And Soloer Troll Inbound, credit for the kill, but the burn damage from the Zhang Kui helps find the Artemis, and now, unfortunately, Inbound finds that damage.
Double stun.
Turn, and a great push from Ducky. Slaney, incredibly low SOT as well. Johnny finds himself a double kill. Raffer walks out alive. They sacrifice their carry, but they get 3 this time. Stewart and Baronic are around. They were able to find something at the very end of that Fury. Wonder if they can do something now.
Boronic, you're immobile. You can't play this deep. Spotted out by Zeros. Best of luck.
And yeah, stunned, locked down, damage. Johnny, credit for the kill. That's technically 3 in the fight. 3, 1, and 7 for the jungler here on the Valkyries. They're going to go ahead and back, reset. They've got 30 seconds without SOT, 45 without Boronic. They're coasting.
You know what, Gore? I think Emilito's intoxicated by this lead. Not often the Valkyries find themselves in such a dominant position, and, well, not often you see Artemis act as frontliners either. Walks immediately into every single member of the Solar Scarabs, but eventually that fight turns around off of a phenomenal 2-man stun for Rapper into a 2-man push from Ducky straight into the MVP of that engagement. The Fire Giant gets that knock-up and great damage. Now, Valhalla Valkyries looking to confirm the largest neutral objective on the map, but the Solar Scarabs will not make it easy.
It's taken them a while. They haven't even got to half health. Slaney's back over here. You don't have Boronic. It's going to be a 4v5 with Emilito rejoining the fight. They're going to go for the burn, though. All 5 of the Valkyries still looking at the Fire Giant. Johnny goes into the back line, looks to zone out Stewart inbound, but Slaney jumps forward. Slaney not able to confirm this. Valkyries get the Fire Giant, but they lose Johnny in the process. Ducky really far forward. Same thing could be said for Slaney. Slaney looking to get burned down by Emilito, and that is exactly what he does. Inbound, trying to step into the front line, but it's not going to work. This Artemis is not going to be pushed over once. Well, at least not by you. Stewart, credit for the kill, thanks to SOT's setup. Now it's up to this ROM to stay alive. That Aussie passive doing a lot of work keeping him there, but not enough to keep him rolling forever. Boronic finally back, and Forster on away. Once again, only 2 members left of the Scarabs left after that fight.
All right, Raph, I need you to slow down here, buddy. There's no way you take this fight 1 versus 2. Nobody's here to help you. That's the right call. Work your way on out of there. Fire Giant now on 3 members of the Valhalla Valkyries, and plenty of towers left on the map to go ahead and collect gold from. Solar Scarabs, though, have been showing some gumption in these fights.
Yeah.
They've been able to fight in consistently. I mean, they're trading out their front line every single time, but that 2 core members of SOT and Boronic have survived just about every single one of these engagements. If they can start to get into these fights before their teammates die, maybe these fights go even better for the Solar Scarabs.
Well, I'm not going to harp on, well, you know what, we should harp on Boronic a little bit for that one. I was going to say he was respawning, that's why he was late to it. He was respawning because he was way too overextended. So theoretically it's oh, well, it wasn't his fault, he was in the death timer. It's like, well, it's kind of his fault, he was in the death timer though. So balances things out. You can see where the pressure is going for the Scarabs, though. So far, 4 deaths on Emilito, 0 onto Zeros, which perfectly matches up with his name. And now it's his Primal Fury. It's being looked at by the Valkyries. Slaney, SOT, Boronic are hanging out over here. Inbound's on the other side of the planet, though, so it's going to be a 5 versus 4 if they get things going. Otherwise, you can see that Gilgamesh making the rotation over.
I can't believe the Valhalla Valkyries want to fight here of all places instead of around a permanent objective, but maybe this is why. They know SOT is all alone.
And they just killed his health bar. He's still alive, but not for much longer. Johnny takes half his health in the process. Same thing for Ducky. Stewart is the one that is under their aggression. Ducky barely makes it out alive on that one. Can't say the same for Stewart. Slaney burned down. Finally, someone gets rid of the solo laner for the Valkyries. Inbound with a good rotation. Once again, it's Boronic plus another that are left alive here. You can't kill that tier 2 yet, guys. You got to get the tier 1. The Valkyries are going to fall back, but they only have 2 Fire Giant buffs left.
Hey, Fire Giant on to Raffer at least is pretty nice. Having your frontliner be able to tank it up and then resustain not only from the kit, but also from the Fire Giant itself is a good boon, but the ability to burn through these objectives is going to be majorly hindered by the targets that do have Fire Giant. Valhalla Valkyries decided earlier that they wanted to fight over this Primal Fury, and, well, I don't care about the map state. We're going to go back and get it. We fought hard and we earned it. Primal Fury goes the way of the Valhalla Valkyries. Now, where are they going to keep their push up? Anywhere on a tier 2 tower. Any tier 2 tower would be nice here.
Just
and it seems like mid. Yeah, they're going mid. They got the minion wave. Let's work it.
So Mifflin, like, okay, come on, let's get a tier 2, guys. Like, let's find something. We've got 50 seconds left on this Fire Giant buff. Admittedly, not much you can do with it when it's on Zeros. You need Emilito in the neighborhood. They get the Pyromancer, so stripping every neutral objective that they can. But as you had mentioned, the map state, admittedly, you can maybe more even than you'd like for a team that just had Fire Giant. 3 towers standing for the Scarabs, all the tier 2s, versus 4 towers standing for the Valkyries. The only difference is that mid-tier 1. And Mifflin, what is this? A 8,000 gold lead for the Valkyries, 10 kill lead for them. As much as it is that's leaning in their favor, the only difference in experience now is the fact that Slaney's 4 levels down. Everybody else is level 20, 16. And at this point as a support, I mean, yeah, that hurts, but it's not the end-all be-all.
And look, gold lead is pretty massive. We're approaching 10,000, but 10,000 gold at nearly the 30-minute mark, not as big a deal. I mean, just about everyone in the game is starting to approach that true 6 slot. So the Solar Scarabs aren't nearly as behind as it may appear by just looking at the top of the screen. And let's go ahead and get a roundup of that Fire Giant power play from the Valhalla Valkyries. They get the buff, they group up on the Primal Fury, they get the Primal Fury, they take out a tier 1 tower on left, and that's it. They spent the majority of their time. Well, they got Pyromancer as well, you're right. They spent the majority of the time using the best buff, the best neutral objective on the map, fighting for the second best neutral objective on the map. It just feels like they could have pushed just about anywhere else. Maybe they were a little bit chagrined by the fact that the minion waves on the left-hand side are pushed down to the tier 2 tower for the Solar Scares, but just go collect that. Like, it's a Primal Fury. We don't need that.
Well, I'd say more props to the Scarabs than anything for not only making a stand around the Primal Fury, but making the Valkyries second guess everything.
Somehow it was the right call.
Yeah, like, one of those moments where any team that gets Fire Giant, if in that circumstance, maybe tier 2 defenses is what we're talking about, but being able to hold your own over in the Primal was great, but is it going to be enough here to fight for the Fire Giant? SOT in the middle of 4, and he's not getting burnt down fast enough. In fact, it's the Snipes now coming down once again onto Imelito. He's incredibly low, but still alive. Inbound is in the same state. Ducky trying to get aggressive. Johnny going deep for his opponent jungler, and he's going to be able to find him, but under the tier 2. Look at the Scarabs turn and run. Not able to catch up to the Fenrir this time. They get 1 kill. They move out. Doesn't feel like a Fire Giant just yet, though, Mifflin.
MVP of that fight has to go to Ducky, who zones off 4 members of the Solar Scarabs all on their own. Once Johnny dives into the tier 2 tower, SOT tries to get in range to get that follow-up kill, but cannot find the refrag. Instead, it is Bobby for nobody in favor of the Valkyries, and, well, the Valkyries aren't doing a lot to generate threat here. Just waiting for this Terra to resustain, and now that they've healed up a bit, going to go ahead and start the enhanced Fire Giant.
Yeah, and this time they have Imelito from the get-go, so the burn on the FG should be a little bit faster for them than last time, but there's still 4 members of the Scarabs standing here. No ult for Stewart, no ults at all on the side of the Scarabs or the Valkyries. And they're looking to get aggressive onto the Scarabs, but they're nowhere nearby, Mifflin. They drop the Fire Giant, it heals back up to full. They're going to go ahead and pick it back up again.
Look, the Solar Scarabs don't have to step up until this Fire Giant is low, but SOT walks his way in, and being as squishy as he is, he's going to go ahead and fall down as quickly as that. Baronic left behind, no beads available, and is immediately caught out as well. Double kill for Zeros.
And Stewart just decimated thanks to Zeros. A triple kill for the mid laner, looking to make it 4. The quadra for Zeros as he cleans up every living member of the Scarabs around that FG pit, the last one standing. Oh, that's inbound over in the mid lane. Not going to be able to find much there. 9, 0, and 10. Showcasing what Zeros has to offer.
Bro, it wasn't even an ambush, Gormizer. They didn't pull the Fire Giant. They reset it, and the Scarabs are like, yo, Fire Giant, what's good? And walk in and immediately die. Now Valhalla Valkyries knocking on the door of the Titan.
Yeah, they're going to walk in 20 seconds before SOT is back. And unfortunately for inbound, not much to do in that circumstance. The Titan's going to go down here. The Valkyries get themselves a game win. Well, their effort died to the Titan there. I was a little worried. Start sweating for the Valkyries there. The Titan is maybe going to put in some work for them. But at the end of the day, you were in a position where the Valkyries are 1 step closer to ending that lost streak.
Hey, it looks pretty good to me. That was a convincing win for them. They won out the majority of the team fights in their favor. They were controlling the neutral objectives as well. Look, if they could just keep that up, keep this same pace, run that exact same draft if you want to, I think the Valhalla Valkyries take this in 2.
I mean, I'm honestly kind of more surprised that the Scarabs put up as much of a fight. I think that, yeah, that's really good considering the position they're in. Like, this is not an easy set for you because of the changes that have made, the things that have happened to this roster. We'll figure out whether they can bounce back if things are going to change. Their coach is still there, so they might be able to figure out some picks and bans.
What do we do?
We'll have to see all of that in game number 2 right after this.
I'm a baller, take a deep breath. I'm a shark, you 7 days a week. I'll be up all night, day and night, day and night. I'm a spend. I'm a baller, take a deep breath. I'm a shark, you 7 days a week. I'll be up all night, day and night, day and night. I wear fancy clothes. I'm a hella woke. I got hella flow. As I'm earning dough, I'ma bring the show. Anywhere I go, live a life to the maximum. All day and night. All day and night. All day and night. Live a life to the maximum. All day and night. All day and night. All day and night. I'll be up all night. Let me be your king, yes I could be your captain. Live a life of dreams and live a life of fashion. I'ma lift you up before I throw you out. Cause you can live your life sitting down. I'm a king, I'm a boss. I'ma spend, let it cost. Let me live my life of bliss in the fast lane. I'ma be on top of the world, watch it happen. I'm a best man, I'm a baller, take a deep breath. I'm a shark, you 7 days a week. I'll be up all night, day and night, day and night. All day and night, all day and night. All day and night, live a life to the maximum. All day and night, all day and night. All day and night, I'll be up all night. Live a life to the maximum. Put it up on my tab, listen up, here I am. Money talks, I got fans, spend it hard, spend it fast. What you need, I got cash, make a wish, I'll make plans. I'm a pig in a suit, I don't give if I'm rude. Let me live my life of bliss in the fast lane. I'ma be on top of the world, watch it happen. My life is dope, I wear fancy clothes. I'm a hella woke, I got hella flow. As I'm earning dough, I'ma bring the show. Anywhere I go, live a life to the maximum. All day and night, all day and night. All day and night, live a life to the maximum. All day and night, all day and night. All day and night, I'll be up all night. Live a life to the maximum.
After that slobber knocker of a game number one, it brings us all the way back over here onto the desk. But if you want to get your hands on some sweet SPL merch, you can take yourself over to shop.smiteproleague.com to pick up some of the sweet merchandise we have. You don't know what team you want to support? We got some beautiful neutral wear that you can go get your sick Smite Pro League hoodies, get your t-shirts onto it, all again at shop.smiteproleague.com in order to pick that one up. Aggro back here on the desk with me to break down game number one. And that was a little bit closer for comfort, I think, than the Valkyries won in that early game. They never really got a big lead until probably about 20 or so minutes in.
I mean, I feel like they should have been able to blow that game wide open with the early double kill in duo lane. I thought, all right, it's over.
Right.
They got ahead. Slaney and Stewart, the duo lane got behind. Should be able to wrap this one up fairly quickly. And it's credit to the Scarabs. I think they did a good job of stemming the bleeding, bringing their pressure elsewhere. Solar Troll was able to come in and make a couple plays. Moronic was putting out a lot of damage on top of that. But overall, definitely not the type of game that you feel like the Scarabs are going to be in a position to win at that point. I mean, even as they got later and later, it did not feel to me like they were ever under any threat because Zeros was just free casting in these fights. Baronic was not, or excuse me, Inbound was not able to get on top of him at the same time as Slaney, at the same time as Solar Troll. The dive being desynced against a guy like Zeros on a god like Raijin, it's a recipe for disaster, and that's really what ended up being the killing blow over here for the Scarabs.
Yeah, a 14.5 KDA on your mid lane mage, undying that entire game through. It's not something that you can just let happen. It's like, okay, yeah, it's just a Raijin, but guys, it's a Raijin. When you hit late game, and we saw what even happened yesterday, 2 hits of that Taiko drum is more than enough to kill any squishy target, and Zero's ending the game on a big quadra kill for himself too. I mean, this is a player you have to be paying attention to. You cannot let him just sit there and free cast in those backlines.
I mean, 9-0 and 11 tells the story. How about 1-2 and 22 for Raffer, by the way? That is a beautiful support scoreline. And certainly this is what we expected from the Valkyries. A little bit better, being more proactive in the early game. Their mid game, I still think they looked a little bit unsure of where to be. I think that they certainly could have transitioned this lead a little bit better, but a win is a win is a win. And that's really what matters here for the Valks. They got a win underneath their belt, but you can't just sit here and think that there are not going to be any adjustments on the other side. The Scarabs are making some changes, at least in how they're setting up. It seems like it's going to be Solo Troll in jungle for game 2, Inbound back in support, Slaney and Solo. For my money, this is how it should have been from minute 1, because you're just leaving your dual lane that has the least experience on an island with the way that they did it in game 1. Didn't end up working. That's what happens. I'm interested in seeing what happens now, because Solo Troll carried plenty of games in the SOC out of the jungle. This is a different level, of course. This is the SPL, but he might be able to do it again.
And again, that's going to also affect how the picks and bans go for us, because they kind of knew what to ban when it comes to going up against Solo Troll in that support and that solo role onto that. Now he's moving into the jungle. Maybe we still see a lot of the same picks for them. Just ban what's safe over anything else. Keep their priority on making sure that you get your strong suits and keeping them off of just kind of the top picks onto it. But with Inbound going back to support, I think this can really shake up that dual lane a little bit more than what we saw in game number 1. Game 1, it was just, we have Terra, we have Artemis, we run at you, we kill you. Inbound's not one of those players that just lets that happen. He loves these Hercules kind of picks. He loves the assassin supports as well. Maybe we see that shift up and kind of get the dual lane rolling for the Scarabs.
Maybe so. I think that, no way that with Inbound there in support, the dual lane starts as poorly as it did in the last game. That's kind of what you're going for here for the Scarabs, is just try to get to the point where we can get Solar Troll and Baronic to take us through this game. You're really looking at Inbound, Baronic, and Solar Troll as your 3v3 now in mid, and that gives you more options to just have win conditions that way. I think it is a little bit easier to win in that fashion than what they were trying to do in the last game. So definitely looking for the Scarabs to prioritize focusing in on locking in priority gods for their mid 3v3.
And I think this will make an interesting shakeup onto it. We do see similar bans out of the Scarabs in game number 2. We do see the Osiris banned out again. We see the Loki once again. Make sure to keep Johnny off of that one. But they mix it up this time and take the Terra away from Raffer. And Terra has kind of risen up for the supports. Players are really starting to like this Guardian. We saw Genetics put on a killer performance on it yesterday. Had probably 2 of the best walls I've ever seen in my life on that one. Yep. Especially that one that he caught out in the mid lane.
Yeah, he played so well on it. That's been one of his picks. Mike played it yesterday as well. Looked very good on it. I like the adjustment. Take that away. If the games are going to go late, which I think they will between these two teams, Terra is just an instant win condition for you. So make sure that you don't have that on the other side. I like the adjustment in that sense. This Gilgamesh pickup, is this going to go into solo for Slaney? Almost certainly not. I think this is almost guaranteed to be jungle here for SOT.
The Valkyries are going to pick up the Emoji in place of the Terra being taken away. Not a pick that the Solar Scarabs tend to go back towards anymore. Haven't had their best success with it. The Valkyries are going to see if they can put something on the board for it. But going back to the Morgan Le Fay again, I liked what Baronic was able to do with it. He had a strong early mid game, but when it came to those late game fights, it just felt like he didn't have a leg to stand on, didn't have anywhere that he could go. He was just getting ran at by these gods like the Fenrir, who was just constantly on top of their backline.
Yeah, it's a good point. Baronic did put out a ton of damage in that game and had opportunities to make plays, so I don't have any problem with him going back to the Morgan Le Fay. This, I think, is very smart from the Scarabs.
Yeah.
Lock in your mid 3v3, first 3 picks, and it's 3 gods that can take over games. Hercules support, Gilgamesh in the jungle, and Morgan Le Fay in mid. Love it. I think this is exactly what I wanted to see from them. Good adjustment. Now it's a matter of getting Stewart on something that he can be comfortable on and getting Slaney on something that can still impact the game out of solo.
With that one, we go into the second round of bans and still some more focus onto Johnny once again, banning the Kali, but changing it around this time, taking the Fenrir off the table. A great performance out of him, 4-2, and I believe 15 that he finished that last game. Nothing to scoff at for that assassin player. I mean, when you have a Fenrir who controlled it as well in the early game as he did go into the late game, sure, didn't get a ton of kills, but he set up so much for Zeros in particular.
Yep.
Ducky also had fantastic zoning on the Cucullin. I wouldn't be surprised to see if maybe we see him kind of go back over to that god too.
Agreed. Same recipe for the Valks here. You lock in your ADC, your support, and your mid, then you're letting Johnny and Ducky counterpick later on in the draft, which I like for what they like to do, which is play around particularly Zeros in the mid lane, allow Johnny to get that counter pick a little bit later on. That makes some sense to me. But with the Fenrir being taken away, I wonder what pick Johnny's going to go to with some control, because that sort of formula seemed to work for the Valkyries in game 1. Letting Zeros do a little bit more of the hard carrying, and letting Johnny fill a little bit more of that facilitator role in comparison to try and do it the other way around like they've done for the majority of this year.
Well, it seems that he kind of falls back to the Apollo more often than not. We didn't see that one banned away from this time. He also likes the Tsukuyomi, as we've seen.
Yep.
Last game, they banned Set away from him, though. If you're going for more control, I don't think that Set's the opposite. You want to go for control. That's just straight damage out of that one. So I'm curious where this one's going to go. Heimdall rounds out the 4th pick there for the Solar Scarabs. Get their dual lane synergized out there. Hercules Heimdall, a lot of aggression in that lane, a lot of potential to get that first blood with it. You can get those crystals to go in immediately. I mean, then you just have Hercules get a nice little knock-up and a driving strike afterwards. And Guan Yu going up into the solo lane. This one in the hands of Ducky. How do you feel about the Guan Yu going there?
I like it because of the way that this game, I think, is going to play out, which is similar to game 1. Even when the Valkyries got a pretty big lead in game 1, they didn't really turn up the pace. They didn't try to snowball the game super hard. They were content to just sit there and know that they're going to win late game. And I think that's exactly the same plan that they have going into this one. We're gonna just get through the early game. We've drafted to play a little bit better late, and we're gonna try and execute on that. The Serket is the one pick that doesn't really fit with that mentality, right? It's not the late game team fighting selection that we saw from the rest of their draft, but Fenrir kind of fit that same thing anyways. It's there as the early game stopgap. We know that we can get some early picks. We know that we can set ourselves up on the right foot, and then we can hand the ball off to the Guan Yu, the Yamoja, the Artemis, and the Raijin a little bit later on. Let them do the majority of the heavy lifting.
All right, we've seen a lot of jokes about it onto social media, and we've seen both coach supports who have come in here to kind of sub in for it. Go to the Xing Chen into the solo lane. Now with Slaney going back into solo. We are seeing that pick yet again. How does the Xing Chen kind of round out this composition for the Solar Scarabs, and does this Xing Chen selection kind of give them that better foot forward to maybe take themselves into Game 3?
It team fights well. Come late game, it has great control, plenty of CC. I like it on diving the Artemis because just furious roaring the Artemis takes away the vast majority of her damage for a pretty long period of time, and you can't beads away that damage mitigation that you're getting on those auto attacks. It brings a lot come late game, but it's easy to bully early game. I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Valks go for a more kill heavy lane. Their Serket Guan Yu, that can dive pretty well. They've got some sustain. They've got good damage even against the tanks. You've got Prot Tread there from the Guan. I would like to see the Valkyries pressure the Xing Chen a little bit early. Then Xing Chen is, again, kind of like Fafnir, very survivable. Hard to kill, mobility, protection, CC, kind of got it all. But doesn't mean that just by being survivable and having CC that you're going to be able to use it at the right times. Slaney struggled a little bit in game 1 as expected. You know, we're not expecting him to come in here and set the world on fire. But the Xing Chen has got to do a little bit more than he did on that Fafnir for sure.
Yeah, Xingqian always just kind of feels like a comfort pick no matter which role you're taking him into. Like you said, he's very survivable, has good CC, has good mobility. He's got the HP 5 on top with his passive as well, so he can keep that one up pretty easily into the solo lane. You're not too often going to see people able to dive into a Xingqian. I mean, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel is one of the best kind of deterring ultimates. Even if you don't grab anybody with it, force them to walk away from you. No one's going to want to kind of walk into that danger that is that ultimate. The Valkyries with their draft here, I kind of want to kind of go back onto the Circuit like we talked about, you know, more control that came out of the Fenrir, the Circuit, much more single target onto this one, and not really what I expected out of Johnny. This doesn't really feel like necessarily a Johnny God. He's definitely more control-oriented when it comes down to it. I expected more like the Tsukuyomi or even a Daji may not have been an awful option for it onto this one, especially on that very immobile Morgan Le Fay onto it. I think Daji would have been a great selection for it, but going with Circuit kind of, I'm going to be watching this one very carefully for him because I think that this is kind of the pivotal pick onto that one for them.
Definitely something different for Johnny. I mean, you're right. It's oftentimes Tsukuyomi. It's oftentimes things like Set that let him be the primary carry. But I think that this is maybe the start of something a little bit different for the Valkyries. Not having Johnny be the guy in order to carry you through the games, giving that over to Zeros and letting him try to do it, and just let Johnny facilitate. Go to some lanes, get some ganks, then set up the rest of the team in order to carry. Is that a better long-term plan for the Valkyries? I'm not sure. It's certainly worth trying because what they have been trying up until this point has not worked. So I appreciate them trying to do something a little bit different, change up their overall play style. And if that's going to be the play style, letting Johnny be your facilitator, letting Zeros be your hard carry, letting Emilito be a little bit more of a hard carry, then something like Circuit fits perfectly for that. Circuit is a high execution god, gotta end up landing your buttons in order to make it happen, but I think Johnny's going to be able to do it.
Well, let's see if the Valkyries can do it and finally pull themselves a set win, or the Scarabs going to take it to Game 3. We'll take it over to Gore and Mifflin to help us find out.
That's right. Once again, it's Gore and Mifflin for game number 2. And Mifflin, it's time to play the shovel game. I tried to make it through the whole bit and I couldn't without laughing. The Scarabs have once again moved around, and it's time for you to break down who is where.
So we got Slaney out of the soul lane with that Xingqian. I'm in a unique position to break that one down a little bit later on because I'd say maybe 60% of my SCL games I had a Xingqian solo on my team. We've got SOT out of the jungle, so you better believe he's going to be teeing this game. That's trolling, by the way, if you don't, because like solo or troll.
Or
he's not in solo, so he must troll. I have no mouth,
that
therefore
tracks.
I must scream. Inbound, now back into the support role as well, so maybe this is their best foot forward. I was talking to Dave, I was talking to Taco between these matches, and I said, look, I don't like where these roles were in Game 1. I think that this is likely their best shot at finding a dub. Make sure Inbound is in a position where he knows how to perform, where he knows to find his pressure, and he can do stuff like this. Already pulling Raffer in, already helping Stewart out a little bit more, and just send Slaney over to the soul lane. Be that lane that is generally just going to lose pressure, likely going to get invaded pretty often, but won't die, and come late game, the desk highlighted it, has great team fight presence, good lockdown CC, good survivability, CC immunity inside the ultimate, as well as great beads burning potential. That's all we need to see from Slaney. Survive for the first 20 minutes, press 4 in the next 20 minutes.
You got to think about it. I don't know free agent-wise, junglers versus solo laners, but you got to say, if SOT has a banger of a game, you think he might, maybe he's vying to take over Layer's spot on this roster and move himself from solo into the jungle here. We'll have to keep our eyes on him. It's this Hercules that really has my attention, I think, throughout, first 10 minutes? That's probably where I'm going to be looking, is what exactly Inbound is going to be able to bring. Maybe a little bit over here in the solo lane as well, specifically, and how much Ducky will be able to find. But it's Inbound, gets one push, one beads. It's not going to be enough to find a kill, but next time, Emilito's not going to be so safe.
This is already so much a better look from the Solar Scarabs. Inbound is establishing pressure. Emilito is under threat. I mean, if he gets pulled at any point now, dude's just dead. Won't have CC immunity until level 5, and the beads aren't going to be up in time for that. So all Inbound has to do is continually try and find that pressure. Unfortunately, Bobby's already used his blink, so it's going to be about 2 minutes until that's back and available. But until then, purple buff invade on the map. You can go to the red buff as well. This is so much pressure already established by the Hercules pick.
I mean, feels more solid. Someone that I kind of expected last year, like Hercules was dominant in Season 7. and he just kind of disappeared at the beginning of Season 8. And granted, there were a lot of changes between 7 and 8, and there's still a lot of changes coming into what is now. In fact, he's gone for a different start than what we're used to seeing as well. So maybe Inbound is piloting something. We'll see. Maybe not often, but at least a few times over the next few weeks.
Yeah, just a little bit more sustained with the Sentinel's gift. Going to be able to stick around in the lane a little bit longer and maybe find the pull on Embolito.
Gets a good push. As you had mentioned, no CC immunity here for you.
Rip!
SOT over the wall, and SOT with a lockdown. Raffer is going to make it under the tier 1 and stay alive, but that's first blood on Embolito. And then a blink over in the jungle. Not going to be able to find the lockdown onto Slaney with that rotation from Johnny. And so it is ultimately a Scarabs win for first blood.
But Valkyries are able to at least do something on the other side of the map. Blue buff is invaded, and speed buff getting invaded as well. Johnny going for the cardinal sin. You're breaking the trust, the bro code. Not cool, man. Speed buffs are for your own junglers, and SOT gets there just in time to watch it go down. That's messed up, all right? That's not a jungler you're doing that to, Johnny. You're bullying a solo laner.
And speaking of bullying a solo laner,
nice.
Slaney locked down by the ult, and it's the tick damage afterward that's enough to find it. Maybe the minions, I guess, credit for the kill as Ducky gets him low, serves him up on a silver platter, and Inbound incredibly low in the duo lane. Raffer, Embolito, not going to be able to chase him down the way they'd probably like, but it stabilizes the lane.
Slaney picking up a benevolence inside of the soul lane, realizing that probably going to be losing a lot of farm to the tower. So we can might as well short up as best we can. And unfortunately for Slaney, he just makes it through that breaking point, that tipping point for Jingchen where he becomes nearly unkillable inside of the lane. Now that he's ticked over to level 5 post-mortem, by the way, inside the grayscale screen, he likely won't die again, even though Ducky does have an entire level lead. But what Ducky will also have is every subsequent Totem of Coup, likely every single blue buff, and I'm talking both of them, not just his, but also the enemies going forward. Like every single one going to be going the way of Ducky, as long as Johnny's able to rotate over and help out a little bit. I expect Ducky is just about done with this lane. I mean, he can head back to base, buy nearly an entire item probably, and start to rotate out. And Guan Yu's got a great matchup in a Morgan Le Fay. Baronic should be feeling some pressure this game.
So it feels, at least at this point, like it's the Hercules on the left versus the Guan Yu on the right. Who is going to be able to make more impactful rotations in the next couple of minutes might dictate who sets the pace of this game, maybe even who wins this game if they can do it properly. Level 5 has been hit for every player in the game, so Boulder available for Inbound, but most importantly, Tusky available for Embolito. We had mentioned the CC lacking earlier. Now he's got those beams and the Tusky, and that's going to be the use of the ultimate. It's only going to stun the one, Stuart just outside the range. And Tusky's just going to hang out in the middle of the lane as per usual, and ultimately Embolito is lacking now 1 survivability.
He is, and steps a little bit far forward here. Thought maybe we'd see Stewart step forward with a Gallarhorn and try and find the slow to set up for Bobby, but instead, just going to go ahead and keep zoning off the wave, and there's the turnaround now. The Raffer shows up. Keep your eyes on Johnny. Looks like he's trying to get involved.
Yeah, still hanging out over here. Jumps in. Rivers Rebuke is good as well. Locking down Inbound. One more hit, and it's going to be Johnny credit for the kill. And now Stewart's on the chopping block. Zeros goes up into the ult, and there's going to be the Bifrost. But Embolito was waiting for you here. The shots just need to connect one more. Raffer gets that one. And they're going to be able to pick up 2 kills for free in the duo lane.
That is a late beads from Stewart, and didn't help him out a whole ton there. 150 seconds till that's back and available, and that's 150 seconds of him living in constant fear that Johnny's going to show up yet again. It was a tale of 2 games where the Solar Scarabs controlling the duo lane and the Valkyries kind of having all the emphasis over inside of the solo. Well, Valkyries turned that one around pretty quickly now, invading the purple buff as well as the blue buff on the other side. This has been a distinct shift, a tonal shift in the match already.
And it feels good if your Embolito has, well, I think he had 1,500. Now it's going to be a little bit more than that in hand as he backs here. So theoretically going to catch up to Stewart, maybe past Stewart in terms of the build, which has been a little slower. Raffer, credit for the Scorpion kill. Is back to farming for the Valkyries. This is an interesting position to be in, though, Mifflin, because, again, Zeros quadra kill at the end of the first game. Alan dying, what was he, like 9-0-10, 7-0-10, something ridiculous
crazy
like that. It is a great position for the Valkyries to showcase what they have, but it still took them a while to get there, and that was against a much more mismatched Scarabs than I think what they're facing now. And so 7 minutes in, despite what should feel like a comfortable lead for the Valkyries, I don't know how much you can lean on them winning this now. It's going to be in onto this collapse, and Inbound has pretty much nowhere to go. Johnny jumps over, though, and that gives him an avenue out of there. In fact, it opens up the door for SOT to get aggressive, and the boulder comes through. Johnny falls down, then through the realms gets sent Raffer. Emilito forced to run away here. Raffer in the middle of all of them. Zeros going for the ult. Whiff. A 0% accuracy ult there for Zeros. And that is going to give a Scarabs a 2-for-0 trade.
No way. Come on.
Backup's going to be good. Emilito into the wall, and Inbound takes him down, making him look like clowns.
Okay, Inbound, I see you, bud. And I was just going to make the point before that fight erupts that this is not how we normally see the SPL meta develop throughout the game. Usually, supports hit level 5, and they dip out of the dual lane. They go participate in this thing that we talk about very often called the 3v3. That's generally where the jungler, the mid laner, and the support like to play the center of the map. But here in this set, both the Valkyries and the Solar Scarabs, I guess, have a gentleman's agreement that we're going to play a 2-1-2 meta. Mid laners have been allowed to do whatever they want. Junglers have been largely inside the soul lane, and, well, support and ADC been sitting over there in the long, but now starting to favor the Solar Scarabs, who find some pretty wild pressure off of Zero's struggling to land his abilities, and Emilito sticking around a little bit too long.
Honestly, you could maybe even say it's a 4-1. It is 4 in the left side jungle, 1 over there in soul lane. Everybody seems to be hanging out over here, and Zeros was the man of the hour. Still no deaths, so deathless in the set. And we'll see how long he can keep that up.
We might as well count that last one as a death.
All of the ults, if you miss all 4 Raijin ults, you should just die.
It executes you.
Well, luckily for Zeros and the Valkyries, it's not the case yet. We'll see how long maybe that change takes to come into effect, if it ever does. But it's going to be Emilito. I mean, 0-2-2, too much pressure onto him. Raffer found himself admittedly helpless when he was sent across the stars by Stewart. And this feels just better all around from the Scarabs this time around. There's not a lot of neutral objectives to go for. Still waiting for those Scorpions to go down, but they have control, at least as much as you can in this game, of those neutral objectives in my mind.
I'm still reeling from how that fight started, Gormizer. It was literally Inbound just walking into the entirety of the Valkyries saying, like, you can't touch this, dude. Just and they legitimately didn't. They dropped him down to 50%, and that only made him look a little bit more enticing.
To get out of there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he's doing it again. Bobby's just sitting on their side of the jungle, seeing if he can find any bit of aggression, setting up for this purple buff invade, and Raffer and Emilito don't look like they're interested.
Yeah, they're going to take that sledge pickup there. It's kind of what feels like old school, maybe last year, right? Overall for
What
Inbound.
year is this?
They're going to jump in. They get the purple buff invade. They get the greater Scorpion over here on the Gold Fury side. But the Valkyries might be getting Slaney one more time. Sun's good. The lockdown. 2 ults for Slaney Xingqian. He's walking out of here. Guys, you got to get the kill with that commitment, but they don't find it. Slaney's alive. And all for naught, the Valkyries drop 2 ults.
Yeah, didn't have to use his blink, doesn't have beads, didn't have the ultimate available either. Didn't matter. Stewart, though, trying to get aggressive, cannot step up to Emilito, gets turned on immediately. That is a beads for your life trade, and the Heimdall did not come out ahead.
That is a classic soloed situation right there. I expect everyone in chat to be spamming it. Nobody else
soloed by Meerkat. Type it right now.
Soloed by Meerkat. Meerkat just happens to be spelled E-M-I-L-I-T-O-O this time around. I had to look at his name as I spelled it because I felt like I was going to mess it up. Either way, he's able to find that one. Keeps the kills even, 4-4 in the 11 minutes that have come down for us. But ultimately, it's been a wild ride, Mifflin. This has been a much more action-packed game than Game 1, and yet I still could see it going 35 minutes. Let's see if they think the same on the Scarabs. SOT because the dropkick. Ducky just dashes through and decides to disengage, re-engage. Kind of the I'm going to pull back but also fight you at the same time. Ultimately, nothing comes out of the gank.
So there's SOT figuring out what it's like jungling for a Xingqian. You walk into the lane, you slammed your CC, the Xingqian misses the skyhook, and then you walk out of the lane because Xingqian doesn't deal any damage at this point in. I mean, Ducky is under just about 0 threat of death, unless SOT is willing to do it all completely on his own. And, well, we saw that Slaney's under very low threat of death as well.
Well, not under low threat of death. Stewart locked down. That crystal's not going to get you out of here, but Johnny forced to retreat thanks to SOT's rotation. The winds of Shamash
nice!
Down, and Johnny just low enough, but still capable of escaping more than you could say for this Artemis. The trap is good, but the knockup and the boulder is better. Inbound gets his 2nd kill of the game onto Emilito, and they're not going to be able to lock that down. Stewart walks away alive from that gank.
Bro, Inbound's just playing ADC, man. He's playing Hunter from the Hercules. He's sitting inside this lane, and he's running it down onto Emilito, given every single opportunity. Hercules now 2 levels up on the Emoja, and equal level with the Artemis on the other side. And this is exactly it. This is the Solar Scarabs doing what they're best at. They're emphasizing the players that have been around the longest, making sure that Inbound is comfortable, giving Baronic as much solo farm as possible, and I guess SOT's just good at the jungle? Question mark? How'd that happen?
Look, I'm telling you, 3-0-2. Here's your jungle tryout, man. If you win this set for the Scarabs,
see you, layers.
Not only can you shut down the Valkyries, but maybe you change your name to Jungler Troll. And right now, I don't know whether jungling or trolling. Inbound standing opposite Zeros and Raffer. No cares in the world. Free hair in the wind. Gets the lockdown onto Johnny. Johnny has not been able to get much done. Aggro had mentioned it, not necessarily his go-to pick in this circuit. And this more setup style for Zeros hasn't been working out.
Yeah, generally Johnny likes to play those auto attack, hyper carries. Sometimes we see something like the Tsukiyomi come out, but not generally the facilitator for his team, and that's exactly what he's leaning into. Pridwin pickup, going to give him a little bit more survivability, the ability to just use that ultimate whenever you want. And speaking of whatever you want, Bobby doing exactly that, just walking wherever. Seems like nobody can put the threat to this Hercules.
He even missed both abilities and wasn't punished for anything there. He is more
He's
than
gonna do it
happy
again?
to continue putting pressure onto Zeros. Forces the dash out there. Johnny is just dancing around their red buff. It feels like at any moment the Scarabs are ready to go in, and those blinks aren't available. 20 seconds left.
But they're losing
for both
more.
SOT and Inbound. And yeah, I guess they are a little bit behind here. Look, if you're the Valkyries here, you want a much more massive lead against a team that is supposed to be struggling against you. This is way too close, I think, for them to feel comfortable.
The only place the Solar Scarabs are legitimately winning this matchup is the duo lane, which makes sense that they're putting so much emphasis here. But now that Ducky's over, I think he just brings so much more to the fight than Slaney will. Scarabs gonna have to play this perfect.
We'll see how the 5-on-5 goes. It's gonna take a while for the 5 to exist for the Scarabs. Boulder goes through. And Inbound trying to do his best Wraithen impression, but not able to get the steal on the objective this time around. Valkyries secure themselves the Gold Fury that Warriors will from the Guan Yu, and are finding themselves a little lead.
Yeah, Solar Scarabs make, I would say, the right decision there not to dedicate themselves to the 5 versus 5, because with Ducky rotating in, he's one of the largest people on the map, has some of the most consistent damage as well as great sustain for his team. So instead, just the steal attempt, and well, Solar Scarabs were arguably very close to getting it. That boulder, the excavate, was maybe just a couple seconds too early, maybe a half second. Had he waited just a little bit longer, I think that goes to the Solar Scarabs.
Well, the blue buff invade comes for Ducky, and he's able to pick that one up. Scarabs are incredibly close. Look, if you do any of the Fire Giants that we saw in Game 1 with that boulder available for Inbound, the Scarabs are going to walk away with the Fire Giant. Like, I cannot imagine a world where the Valkyries are going to try to do anything like that with the low secure they have, but we just saw them do it with the Gold Fury, so maybe it will happen. We'll just have to wait and see. 15 minutes into this one, Mifflin, only 9 kills. Last time, we approached 20 minutes, it was about 19 for the Valkyries to 9 for the Scarabs. The Scarabs are the ones pulling ahead on this one, just in terms of the kills. The gold lead's still favored for the Valkyries. Same thing starting to be said for the experience as well. The jungle difference is really starting to show.
It really is. SOT is now starting to fall a little bit behind, but that's because he's been trying to get involved inside of these engagements. Inbound setting up on the red buff is going to go ahead and reset. Baronic and SOT dictate that they do not want to be there, and, well, Bobby can't stick around on his own. Going to go ahead and fall back. Not really much to fight over here on this left-hand side of the map, Gore, so I don't imagine we see much fighting on the left-hand side of the map. Instead, maybe an emphasis towards that mid 3v3 that legitimately has not happened yet inside of this set, or some fights over towards the solo lane. But if anyone's going to start a fight in the solo, it's likely going to be the Valhalla Valkyries, who've got a pretty large lead.
Well, there's going to be Tusky, and that might be enough. No, it's not looking good enough. Rhaegus used there for Emilito, used the beads, used the ult. Anything and everything in the arsenal, and it's not enough to escape the 3, 1, and 3 inbound on this Hercules. Once again, Artemis put into the dirt. They're going to try to respond on the Valkyries by ganking Solar Troll, who has returned to the solo lane for right now. They're not going to be able to find that. Ducky looking for the stun. Out blinked. Johnny goes in, finds the taunt, and Rappers come over with the River's Rebuke. They're looking for the lockdown, and they're going to be able to find it at least onto the Gilgamesh. It looks like Xing Shin will walk away happy. He's going to lose his tower and at least a blue buff in the process.
and likely the Pyromancer as well. This is what I was talking about. Valhalla Valkyries have a massive lead on this side of the map. Can go ahead and strip away this tier 1 tower and then fall back to the neutral objective. Looks like that's exactly what's going to happen here. And it's still 20 seconds left on SOT rejoining the map. And, well, Bobby hasn't really left the center to left-hand side of the map either. So I think as long as the Valhalla Valkyries are fighting on the right-hand side, they're fighting in the right place. But no looks towards the Pyromancer, just happy with the kill in the tier 1.
Feels very similar to game 1, where they're just picking up whatever they can. They had a Fire Giant where the only things they really got were a Pyromancer and a Primal Fury. I guess we can tack on that tier 1 if we really want to, but not a lot of towers that were pushed. In fact, the Valkyries ended it without a second Fire Giant. they
Bobby just take it?
Work on it. Either way. Now it's up to Inbound. You had highlighted maybe his rotations making the biggest difference. He's 3-1-3. You've got SOT at 3-1-2. That death that just happened was his first one of the game. And so these two could really, really be the pillars necessary for the Scarabs to continue fighting in this game.
Yeah, when one of your pillars is 3 levels down, though, and that's the carry of the two, that's not the best look so far. SOT going to struggle with survivability inside of these engagements. Has no tankiness inside of the build, and, well, Bobby isn't supplying any of the traditional auras that you'd expect from your support. No Sovereignty, no Heart Ward, no Gauntlet of Thebes, which means SOT is left high and dry. He's just going to have to play this as a tried and true assassin solo agent. Doesn't even have something like Yamoja to heal him. That's Rapper on the other side.
And there's 2 Curse Donks picked up. Yamoja has been taken down to about 3 Force HP, maybe 2/3, depending on how you want to slice that one. And finally, a Pyromancer getting picked up, looks like by the Valkyries, and maybe just fast enough to make it over in time for that Primal Fury that's about to spawn as well. They get 1 neutral objective. We'll see if they can set up for another. Right now, Emilito, 3 traps in the area to try and make sure Bobby can't run at him as he watches his purple buff get stripped away once again. And now Zeros is the one who's in trouble. Stunned against the wall, locked down, body blocked as much as you can. And he goes over. The boulder's going to chase him. The River's Rebuke in response. SOT may be the one who's caught out now, left lonely and lost. But Ducky's the one in the middle of 4 Solar Scarabs, uses the ult, disengages, the stun is good, and he gets out of there. SOT is the one who falls instead. Slaney jumps back, Baronic's low, and Stewart's out of there, but they're not looking to let Slaney escape this time around, looking for the kill. A couple of hits, and Emilito finally gets a second one on the board. Johnny jumps in, doesn't have his ult, doesn't seem to have the taunt, but they're clearing out plenty of space for this Primal Fury.
That's what I'm talking about with Morgan Le Fay. That Dragonflight is unreactable. Had Johnny been a little bit more aware, could have pre-beadsed it to keep up that chase, but no reason to chase out the kills when the neutral objective has respawned on the map. Primal Fury going to head on down, and that whole fight starts with SOT putting himself out of position. Being as squishy as he is, jumps over the wall into the red buff, trying to chase out the kill, realizes that he can't stick around inside that engagement too long. Instead, tries to reset. Slaney steps forward to try and peel him out, gets caught out by the Caledonian Boar, luckily going towards him in time to peel out for the Valhalla Valkyries. And from there, it was all Valkyries all the way. Solar Scarabs committed themselves to the retreat, leaving their boys behind.
We'll see how long they can keep this up. They've got both of the last neutral objectives going their way. So Fire Giant's the last big one left on the map for them. They're scattered to the winds right now, looking for their jungle buffs. Emilito begging for a single purple at this point, but it's still going to take a little while before that comes up. Red buff being taken by Zeros. It feels like a little bit of a pause. There we go. That's going to be coming down from the Valkyries here. They find themselves 4,000 gold up, Mifflin. A good 21 minutes into this game, and that's still not really as big as it could be.
Look, the Valkyries aren't looking for lead, Score Miser. We know that. They like playing for the latest point of a match possible. If the Valhalla Valkyries were allowed to load into the game at 60 minutes with both teams spawning with 100,000 gold, they'd do that. I mean, I don't think they're concerned with the early to mid-game whatsoever. Instead, just waiting on that team fight, waiting for the point where the Solar Scarabs have to group up as 5. They can't rely on individual plays and instead have to play as a team. And, well, this squad hasn't played as a team for very long.
Well, right now, Inbound's in trouble, taunted by Johnny, and a little bit of damage from Zeros. Gets him to 2/3 HP. The knockup's going to be just wide, so Johnny's not going to be in too much trouble on the receiving end of the Scarabs. They're going to back off under that tier 1, stay alive right now. Again, Mifflin, it's that Fire Giant. That's where I keep looking at it. If I'm the Valkyries, I want that boulder to be down. The minute I see Inbound use it, I know that it's open. And he uses the Blink goes for the push as well. The
Hey,
boulder
Boulder.
thrown in mid, and he is surrounded by 5. Ducky looking to go in. Stewart isolated and alone. That's going to be Johnny dropping his ult into him, throwing him right into Baronic. The poison spreads. Johnny gets the last hit for that one. The tier 1 and mid will go down. It's a 3-for-0 trade, and the Valkyries find themselves ahead.
I was just going to make the point that the Valhalla Valkyries have all the onus to generate threat right now, to force the Solar Scarabs to respond to them, but instead, Bobby makes the decision for him. Boys, we're going in now. Blinks in, immediately loses out on his life. So now Slaney, what was the coach for this team, now has to tie up his cape and be the hero for this team. Best of luck on the Fire Giant Steel.
Oh yeah, it's about 10%. He blinks in, he goes forward just a little too early on the damage. The Valkyries are going to be able to confirm that one. Can he escape now is the question for Slaney.
No.
Running it down, half health.
Maybe.
Gets 2 jumps. He's Xingqian, the root, the stun, the mez. There we go. That comes down from Zeros is enough to lock him up. And Emilito's going to get credit for the kill. All 5 members get to retain the Fire Giant this time around. They're looking to barrel down right-hand lane. This tier 2 tower is quaking in its boots.
Slaney dead for 40 seconds. That is a huge team fight presence loss, but it was at least able to strip the beads off of Zero. So now there's a clear target for the Solar Scarabs. Can we get onto this Raijin? Well, it doesn't seem like they're interested. Bobby's split pushing, SOT's stealing buffs, and well, Baronic's got his eyes on the red.
Yep. That's where things are. I looked at the map when you were saying that. I was
All
left
factual.
in a little bit of disbelief. I still am kind of having trouble believing it. They get the Phoenix, they back off here. If they're the Valkyries, still 3 minutes left on that Fire Giant, so they're not too worried about time. Their jungle buffs are up, so they're going to go claim what they can. They trade right Phoenix for mid tier 1 tower. Mifflin, you know, and all the math that I can do in my head seems pretty worthwhile for them.
I'll trust
to get
you.
those
You're the
kills,
stats
the
guy.
Fire Giant, the Phoenix, and only lose their mid tier 1. Now they're going to be able to strip away all their red buffs, blue buffs, whatever, what have you over here. Which actually I think were scooped away there by the Valkyries, or sorry, the Scarabs. But they're going to get to group up on left, figure out where they go next.
Scarabs had SOT and Stewart on the left-hand side, but didn't elect to go for the Draugr. Would have helped out a lot to have some percentage defense and additional power on your towers in a siege situation, but seems like, again, it's not going to be a tier 2 tower defense. Likely we see them start to group up on the Phoenixes, but Stewart, you're a little deep, bud.
And not grouped up with anyone at this point. Johnny going for the 1v1, uses the beads in the process, but hey, look, beads for ult and to kill maybe feels worthwhile. Now Johnny's the one who's maybe out of position, all the way over there on right, pushing the fire minions as they're knocking down the left-hand Phoenix. One more hit is all it needs with the Phoenix.
Big heal.
Still stands as of right now. River's Rebuke going to come through and force inbound to walk backwards, but he's not going to be able to escape. In fact, he's turning it around. He wants to get into the back line. He's trying to fight. It's too much for them to try and take this one on. Zeros is under pressure. Will he go undying? He gets out of this one, but is he going to be able to run away? No, the first death of the set for the mid laner on the Valkyries right there after getting the left-hand Phoenix, but it's going to come at a cost. The Scarabs. Baronic is left all alone. You've already lost inbound. You lost Stewart. You can't afford this one, but he does end up falling. Johnny, credit for the kill. And now the Valkyries, the ultimate decision. Do you go in with the minion wave on left for the Titan, or do you turn for the tier 2 in mid? They turn for the tier 2 in mid and try to make sure that they further themselves a lead. Stewart respawns now, inbounds back in 15. They're looking for the 3 Phoenixes.
And they should be able to get it. Stewart has respawn, but again, no beads available. It's all about that turnaround. Slaney creating as much space as he can, but it's all about Stewart.
Stewart forced to run away one more time. Emilito doesn't care about the Phoenix putting the damage into Slaney, half health. And the Xingqian's forced to run away. They're going to play this one a little close to the chest. They get the Phoenix. The hat trick is completed. Ducky gets plucked back in inbound, looking for some kills, setting up the blood for the Scarabs. They're not able to find it. That's all towers, all Phoenixes down. The Valkyries back off, spend some of that gold, and reset.
Gore, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's like, what, 3, maybe 4 competitive games in SPL history where a team has come back from all 3 Phoenixes going down? I don't have the exact number.
And like half of them occurred this last Worlds?
Yeah, I think so. So, it's not impossible. We're not out of reach, Solar Scarabs fans. They can still miraculously do it.
That was the Neil passive. It was the Zapman passive.
Oh, God, they don't have any of those.
They don't have any of those anymore.
Oh, well, maybe Zapman's passive stank is just the passive stank in the Scarab's house. could carry them through this one. But for now, we're talking about a 11,000 gold lead for the Valhalla Valkyries. 3 Phoenixes removed from the map, and Fire Giant coming up in exactly 1 minute means that I don't think the Solar Scarabs have an opportunity to step up whatsoever to defend. And it's not because I'm worried that they can't win the fight, which I am worried that they won't win the fight. It's that I'm worried their Titan will die if it's left alone at all. Yeah. They need to babysit that bad boy. Right side Phoenix is going to be coming up very shortly, but the minion wave is pushed up on the right-hand side by the Valhalla Valkyries. Nobody from the Scarabs in range of the Fire Giant. A literal different zip code for every single one of them.
Now, speaking of stank, because we see the Valkyries right now, they're running down this right-hand Phoenix, and like you said, there's no one to fight. I want to follow it. The little pimple on the map that is the Draugr camp. You had mentioned you wanted Stewart to get that earlier. He gets it this time around. This maybe help prolong that Phoenix's life.
Just that Phoenix.
But it feels like it's very, out of place for a team to swing through. Like, if you're trying to defend a Fire Giant, you're trying to defend a Primal Fury, a Pyromancer, it feels like you're just out of place for a hefty majority of it. And so we'll see whether or not it's going to be worth the effort they put into getting it. They are still on the other side of the world. They get a tier 2, though. That exposes Phoenix.
That's
if
a win
I'm
condition.
The Scarabs, that's what I'm looking for.
If they win any singular team fight, the Solar Scarabs are going to barrel down the left-hand side as quickly as possible. Valhalla Valkyries are going to acquire the Fire Giant for all 5 members, and we haven't really had a chance to talk about the siege defense or siege potential of either one of these compositions.
There's been
yeah, there hasn't been any defense, and the siege looks real good when nobody's there to stop you, but the siege is going to look good either way. Raptor has got great separation with the ultimate, zeros his damage output when he does land the Taiko drums, is incredibly good as well, and Ducky has been doing a phenomenal job of generating space, as has the Caledonian Boar, which I'm going to consider a player at this point, because that's how much pressure it's had on the side of the Scarabs. That all being said, the Solar Scarabs defense is simple. They've got one strategy with this composition, and it's dive. We need to get in there. We need to stop them from walking into the base. Inbound, blinks forward. Slaney does the same thing. SOT wins a Shamash to separate the backline. If they don't win out on that initial spearhead engagement on the side of the Solar Scarabs, well, I don't see them winning the engagement at all.
3-3-3 inbound's the one I want to look at. The Caledonian Boar gets the stun inbound.
Huge
Getting
shield.
traded, but that healing comes through. He's going to be alive a little bit longer. Is it enough to make a difference? Unfortunately, not for the Scarabs, but they do get Imolito. They have one big trade support for carry, but they lose SOT zeros with a double kill. Now Stewart pulled right back into the fray. Not going to get away from this one. That is a 3-for-1 trade as the Valkyries run down the left-hand side. They want to end this loss streak, and they want to end it soon. They're going to have to barrel through this Phoenix and Slaney and Baronic to get to the Titan. They're just going to go ahead and jump through, not even looking behind them to finalize the kill. A good Riptide pulls them into the fight, keep Baronic and Slaney uncomfortable. The Titan starting to fall, the minions pouring in. The Valkyries have done it. Not since week 2 of phase 1 have they found themselves a win, and now it is a 2-0 over the Solar Scarabs.
Valhalla Valkyries fans rejoice finally here in Phase 2 of the SPL. They join the ranks of teams that have won in Phase 2 of the SPL. Congratulations to the Valkyries for your clean 2-0.
I think putting themselves tied somewhere, I think at the bottom with somebody as of right now. I can't remember the standings off the top of my head. Either way, gloss over that. They get a win, and that is important for the Valkyries. And honestly, I'm gonna be 100% with you. Scarabs didn't look that bad in that set. Look, it took 60+ minutes of in-game time for the Valkyries
62.
to get a 2-0, and that feels pretty good, I think, if you're the Scarabs. Moving forward, they've got a lot to figure out, but I'm sure they're going to look good when they do. Valkyries stand on top after this set, though, and we're going to break all that down right after this.
Look at this on the right, Ducky in trouble. Piercing Moonlight used just to buy a little bit of time. The root is there from Fine OK, but Ducky with the cow drops down. Finds himself enough time for Johnny to re-engage on the fight, the stun into the wall, and Johnny on the board first now for the Valhalla Valkyries.
Dime si tú quieres algo más. Dime si tú necesitas algo dulce para calmar esta noche. Va a ser loca. Esta noche va a ser la mejor de tu vida. Dime si te quieres acostar. Dime si tú quieres que yo haga algo con tu madre esta noche. Te doy un anillo. Por Pase la mejor de tu vida. Pase la mejor de tu vida. Pase la mejor de tu vida. Dime si tú quieres mis horas. Porque ya tienes todas las 3 de mi corazón. Esta noche va a ser loca. Esta noche será la primera de nuestra vida. Pase la mejor de tu vida. Esta noche, pase la mejor de tu vida.
Mommy, eh, you made a permanent home in my head. You moving like a goddess, come my way, my way, my way. Your hips on the move, only a real one can do what you do. I caught a body, but you was the shooter. Damn, shot me down one time. Now you wanna hug me down, long time. Funny how the love can change sometimes. So we say, hey, back up the bago. I'm pulling up on you. Let me show you my world. Oh. She told me that I make her feel alive. I can see the goodness in your eyes. We can take a trip, just you and I. Just got it. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Adicto a ti, mi flaca. Tu cuerpo sacude como un maraca. Te miro y miro, so sube y baja. Como en Caracas baila.
And welcome back to the Analyst Desk and the SPL powered by Alienware, our title sponsor for Season 8. You guys can get yourselves your own Alienware merchandise. Pick up one of those Aurora Ryzen 10 Edition desktops, as well as a 240Hz gaming monitor for yourself. You can go over to smitegame.com/Alienware. Make sure to use code SMITEAW to pick up that one. One thing the Valkyries were able to pick up, though, a win for themselves, Aggro. Finally, getting themselves on the board here with a victory over the Scarabs. It's got to feel good for them.
Gotta feel good. Honestly, it probably feels like relief at this point, because not only did you not set the new record for losing streak in the SPL, but you didn't lose to the Scarabs with the sub, their coach playing in. So the Valkyries surely should feel good. They did a lot of things well today. Obviously, this is a different type of game than you're going to play against the Scarabs, against a team like the Leviathans, who was their next matchup. But still, you can only beat who's in front of you, and they beat who's in front of them today, and you can't ask for anything more than that.
And a lot of it did come out of that kind of readjustment that we saw out of Johnny. It's something we kind of questioned with the Circuit pick. You know, how does this fit in Johnny's repertoire? Well, it seems like he was able to kind of facilitate that match very nicely, along with the help of Ducky on that Guan Yu, making a huge impact out of the solo lane, very early rotation. And on this kill specifically, got down to 4 health, able to make it out, and able to get zeros to kill on top of it to boot.
Yeah, really, really love the play from Ducky. I think that the Guan Yu is a really good pick for him. It's similar to a lot of the other picks that he likes to play, which is a little bit more late game oriented, lets him get to the position of just get to the team fights and I can make an impact there. And he made a big impact in the team fights on this pick. Love the way that the right side of the map played for the Valkyries in this game.
I just noticed that on that last kill for Johnny at the mid lane, there was actually a teleport in with the Bifrost, and on the end of that teleport was when the dot spread, and then ends up getting the double on a Baronic. Very cheeky little play there for him. You don't get to see that too often. But into the standings on it, you do see Zeros, or Johnny specifically topping the charts as far as the kills go into that game. Ducky going undying in that matchup specifically for it. So now he's able to add an undying win to his column, just like Zeros did in game number 1. And they find themselves finally a win, just on the win column in general for themselves, tying their standings as far as the wins and losses go, with the Scarabs both now sitting at that 1-5.
Yeah, but because of the head-to-head now, obviously in the Valkyries' favor, they are the ones in sole possession of 7th place. Definitely a step in the right direction for the Valhalla Valkyries. Still, of course, have a lot of work to do, but again, all I can keep saying is that you can only beat who's in front of you, and they had to beat the Scarabs today. They did so. Maybe this gives them a little bit of momentum going forward. Gives them back a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, they're going to need a lot of confidence going up into the Leviathans next week. That's going to be their matchup, but we still have one more matchup to go for today as well. The Oni Warriors and the Titans. That'll come up after this break onto it. But again, another congratulations to the Valkyries. They finally got that win that they were really, I feel they really needed. The confidence boost onto it, just getting that win and making sure to keep themselves off of that big loss streak as well. Not going to be going up for the record on that one.
And hey, it looks like right now at this pace, they might be in the 7th place team. The Scarabs have got so much to figure out. Maybe they can hold on to staying out of that bottom seed.
Well, we do have Ducky one more time standing by for a post-game interview for the Valkyries. Ducky, it's good to have you back this time around. How are you feeling after that Game 1 victory? How does it feel finally getting that first win on the board for you?
Yeah, back again. The rest of my team are all celebrating after beating one of the top teams in the SPL, so you've got me for the interview one more time. But it's, I don't know, it's nice. We made a bunch of changes, and I'm glad to see they're paying off.
Well, speaking of changes onto that one, you guys had to fight two different, kind of roster lineups onto that one. You had Solo Troll against you in the solo lane game number 1. Then you had Slaney going up against you in game number 2. What was kind of the different dynamic having to fight against those two different solo laners?
Well, Slaney's a very dominant player. We've seen him lock in the Xingqian before, as I'm aware. And that was difficult to play against. Very hard matchup for me. And Solo Troll, the Zhong, it's not been looking too great. We've been locking it in, not winning, but I don't think that's due to the Zhong. But playing against that was weird.
Well, it seems you guys were able to make it work out for you. Not only able to topple the Zhong Kui, the dominance of the Zhong Kui, but also able to take down Slaney on that Xingqian. Took you a little bit onto that one. Ducky, thank you so much for coming by again for another interview, and congratulations on getting your first win for this phase.
All right, thank you.
And with that one, Smite fans, we are going to take it to a quick break. When we come back, though, we still have some more Smite action for you. The Tartarus Titans will be taking on the Oni Warriors for our second set of the day. Stick around, and we'll be right back.